Welcome everyone. My name is Councillor Helena Kirby and I'm the Mayor of the Golden Plains Shire Council. Tonight, this council meeting is taking place from the Golden Plains Civic Centre Council Chambers. However, in light of the current coronavirus situation, it is closed to the public and being presented in a different way via live stream. As Chair of the meeting, I give my consent for this open council meeting to be streamed live, recorded and published online, in accordance with Section 14 of Council's Governance Rules of 2020. Myself as the Chair and or the CEO have the discretion and authority to at any time direct the termination or interruption of the live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. The stream will stop at the conclusion of the meeting. The public is able to view the meeting online via Council's youtube.com, search Golden Plains Shire Council. The direct link is also available on our website at www.goldenplains.vic.gov.au. Should technical issues prevent the continuation of the stream, a recording will be made available on the website. Those councillors and staff in attendance in person tonight are advised to practice social distancing and the hygiene recommendations of the Department of Health and Human Services. Due to the coronavirus situation, public presentations and submissions will be presented virtually. For those that do not wish to present their public presentations for public question time, a written response will be provided. The maximum 3 minutes still applies. Thank you. I will now recite the opening declaration on behalf of all councillors. We, the councillors of the Golden Plains Shire, declare that we will undertake on every occasion to carry out our duties in the best interests of the community and that our conduct shall remain the standards of the Code of Good Governance so that we may faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in this council by the people of the Golden Plains Shire. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional Wadawurrung owners of the land where we meet today. Council pays its respect to the Wadawurrung elders, both past and present, and extends that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the Golden Plains Shire. Apologies and leave of absence. Are there any apologies for this meeting or requests for leave of absence? None? Thank you. Confirmation of the minutes. Councillors, we have a resolution before us to confirm the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council held on the 15th of December 2020 as circulated. Can I have a mover? Councillor Cunningham. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Getson. All those in favour? Carried. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Nil? Thank you. Public question time. There have been no questions submitted for public question time tonight. Item 7, business reports for decision. 7.1, the delegates report from the 15th of December 2020 to the 18th of January 2021. Councillors, would any of you like to speak on the delegates reports for the last month? Councillor Gamble?
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. In lieu of some previous conversation, a question raised by Councillor Cunningham, I thought it was pertinent to report from a group that I'm involved in as a council delegate, which is the Grampian Central West Waste and Resource Recovery Group. It involves like 12 councils in West Victoria, and the Zoom meeting I attended had a presentation called, they had a guest speaker from a group called Ecologic with a Q at the end. It's a new Victorian government body, and it's designed to, they're part of the Recycled First campaign that's part of the state government's big build push. Their subtitle is Purposely Green Infrastructure. It's going to have implications to our Shire, among others, into the future, with potential upsides as well. A lot of potential upsides. Victoria's build, I'll just read a bit from their website. Victoria's Big Build is delivering 120 projects and provides a crucial opportunity to drive significant change in the reuse of waste material. The Ecologic program was created to fulfil this aim as an initiative of the Big Build. Requires bidders on infrastructure projects to demonstrate how they will optimise their use of sustainable materials. Basically, they were saying with this big build, there is not enough materials available, what they call virgin resources, and so it's really quite imperative that we reuse materials. It's also designed to bring a uniform approach to the use of recycled and reused products, and aims to drive greater use of these materials, encourage innovation and develop demand for recycled and reused materials. The upside is it will provide education and training in the use of recycled materials and help build a sustainable market for this content, with a specific intention to aid regional industry and business opportunities. An example being Mildura Plastics, making sleepers out of plastics that last for 50 years compared to the current wooden ones that last for 25 years. So it was a very impressive presentation that really will have a big impact on regional councils as well as city ones.
Gamble.
Madam Mayor.
Councillor Cunningham.
Firstly, I'd like to thank Councillor Gamble for that report, which would come out of yesterday's discussion, so thank you, Gavin. I'd just like to just point out or just mention that myself and fellow councillors Jepson and Whitfield, we attended the AGM of the Lethbridge Recreation Reserve committee meeting. We were made to feel very welcome. And we're also shown around a very impressive reserve area. They're a very passionate and committed group of people, and there's some great things being done up that way. And I've spoken to a few people that don't know, but they've got the lake precinct up there, which they've done a lot of work on. So I've encouraged people that haven't been up there recently to have a look, and it was very enlightening. Some of us stayed for a couple of hours. Councillor Jepson, others stayed a bit longer. But no, it was good, so I thank that, and going forward I hope that the opportunity arises where councillors can get out in the community to more of these community clubs.
Cunningham. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Councillor Getson.
Yes, Mayor Kirby. I attended the Linton Shire Hall open day along with yourself and Councillor Gamble. We had a very interesting day meeting different groups up there that's interested in having a look through the Shire Hall, and also hopefully they'll take the Historical Society will probably be very interested in shifting across or something and seeing things going. So it was a great day to have as an open day.
Getson. Councillor Whitfield.
Just a quick correction there for Councillor Getson. I don't think it was Councillor Gamble that attended, it was me.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Dave, would you like to elaborate, Councillor Whitfield, on what happened?
Okay. It was open from 4 till 6. I think we were at the Shire Hall at least until 6:30 with people, lots of people entering, looking at the space, trying to decide how they could use it best for community groups. We were able to have many conversations, not just on the use of the hall, but other issues that residents in that part of the Shire had. So it was a well worth exercise.
Any other councillors? Councillor Sharkey?
Very much, Madam Mayor. Appreciating that, it was a holiday period for a lot of people, so it was nice to touch base. And I think the Golden Plains Twilight Market was a fantastic event for council to finish the year on. It was probably tip not to go ahead with everything that was going on last year. So I think that Twilight Market was one of those moments last year at the end of the year where people said we're getting back to a little bit of normality. So there was other councillors there, opportunity to walk around, but a night to appreciate the water park and everything that's on offer there. So that's well received by the community, and it was good to see that one go ahead. And the only other thing I'd like to report on is there, as part of the Geelong Regional Library Board, at the last meeting there, unfortunately, the CEO there, Paddy Manolis, who is a Golden Plains resident, is standing down as the CEO. So I've been asked to be on the committee there looking for a new CEO, so hopefully we can get a new CEO there. But Paddy's done a fantastic job over, I think, 12, 14 years on that, so been fantastic representative for the area. So disappointing to see her go, but that door opens for a fantastic opportunity for someone to get on board there at a really critical time of the library board, so committee. But thank you very much.
Yep, and just on Paddy Manolis, it's just nice to know and be recognised that she's lives in our Shire. So, you know, to be a part of the CEO of a really reputable library board is excellent. So, well done, Paddy, for your time served. There was a few things that I attended in the last month. One being the Rokewood Recreation Reserve consultation meeting. That went along really well, just showing the officers what was really needed down there at Rokewood to fulfil their dreams and aspirations of what their community would like. It's one of those projects where we know we're going to need a lot of money, but if we can get it right to start with, this should be a good project for the next 25, 30 years and shouldn't have to have any money spent on it. So if we can get that happening, that'd be great. We had our community engagement meeting but via Zoom. Thank you for everyone attending, even if you were on holidays. I do recognise that time is precious, and but for all of us to get together, it was a great achievement, and we'll speak more about the engagement process and what we achieved later on tonight. Other than that, thank you. So do I have a mover to the motion?
Move that, Madam Mayor.
Sharkey. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham.
Second.
Would you like to speak, Councillor Sharkey?
No, I think councillors have covered that well enough, and happy to move that as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to
That's
speak?
been covered, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any councillors who would like to speak against the delegates' report? No? All right, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. Item 7.2, Councillor Engagement 2021. Thank you, Mr Brussells. Or
Thank you.
I'll ask the Director who's speaking.
I'll speak to it. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, as you're aware, over the last few years, the councillors have had an active engagement program with the community with a number of pop-ups throughout the year. Council's hosted the pop-up conversation posts at various events, farmers markets, sporting events, and in our commercial shopping centres. The opportunity is available now for this council to endorse a program that hopefully we will see over the next 4 years, but primarily the program to be endorsed tonight is to highlight what you propose to do over the next 12 months in trying to engage further with our local community. As you're aware, we do engage through a number of strategies and other proposals that we develop through the council, where we go out to the community. But this program is specifically designed at what we can do to have the councillors out and about in our community. The proposal tonight provides opportunity for a number of different ways and means that you can do that. We will include, as proposed, the opportunity for you to be available at various events like the farmers markets, but we're also proposing the introduction of a number of other ways and means to get you in front of our local community. One of the proposals is that we write to and seek an expression of interest from various groups across the Shire, including progress groups, scouts, any of our local community groups such as Landcare or others, to write to us and encourage them to invite you to their meetings throughout the 12-month period. That way you're attending and listening to a particular group and what they're out there doing in our community, but also what the local members have to say about where they're living and what they're doing. The other opportunity that we presented is that we would have a councillor cafe opportunity, where the proposal at the moment is to have you attend a local community where there could be a cafe where you'll be sitting there and the opportunity to informally discuss things with the local members of the community. And the last thing is we're still working on, and we'll present back to council, we're hoping to introduce a new residence program where we can engage with those people newly moving into our community. Historically, we've sent them a pack that might have had information about the Shire and things and how they may wish to get involved. But we're proposing a new program for 2021 where we hope to invite those new residents to one of our events so that they can see what you as local councillors get up to, and the opportunity to meet you and have a conversation with you as new local residents. So the proposal is that you endorse the program and that we continue to deliver it throughout 2021.
Restless. Do I have a mover for the or any questions, councillors?
Madam Mayor?
Cunningham?
Yeah, I just at this point in time, I'd just like to acknowledge the work done by Council Officer Tapley and her team on this piece of work and recommendation. I think it's been very well done.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? No? All right, I'll ask for someone to move motion. Councillor Sharkey.
Yeah, move that, Madam Mayor, and it's a fantastic bit of work that's been put here together. It's a fantastic report. Reads extremely well, and appreciating, and I think there's a couple of items here tonight, appreciating that we as councillors would have, under normal circumstances, would be meeting, having our briefing day and having our formal council meeting next week. So we as councillors got together over the break, had a really good discussion. I think it gave an opportunity for new councillors to bring new, fresh ideas, and also for us existing councillors to express what has worked and what hasn't worked over the last 4 years, because there's so many different ways in which we can engage with the community. I think the standout one in this report is, and further adding and duplicating what Councillor Cunningham said earlier on with regards to meeting the Lethbridge group there. Being a fly on the wall inside a community group is fantastic. There's a lot of people in community groups do not understand our role as councillors and what we need to do and what our role and function is. So I think, and I truly hope that a lot of community groups really engage through this expressions of interest process. And even, I don't see it as our roles to be the guest of honour for there or anything like that. It's for us to sit at the back of the room or a Zoom meeting or whatever it is and actually just be a fly on the wall and be there to take issues. And there'll be sometimes we're there till 9 and 10:30 as some councillors did that night, but then there's other times where there was a meeting I was at last year with Linton, and it was 45 minutes in and out, and I learnt more about Linton in that 45 minutes than probably the 3 previous years on council. So it's a fantastic opportunity, and I truly hope that there's a lot of community groups that can benefit from having us there and expressing issues and having us bring these issues back to the organisation, giving us a different perspective on everything going forward. So the community posts, the community group meetings are going to be fantastic. I'd just note that the current idea is to have a monthly informal coffee, and I think initial conversations came out of that all 7 of us would go to one location around the Shire. I would like to make a change to that and suggest that we as councillors divide and conquer the whole Shire over 2 days over the year, and then be able to get across more local areas across the Shire at pivotal moments during the year. So I think I know that we've got 7 good councillors here that if there is another opportunity or if there's another need or want for us to represent, I know that each and every councillor here would do that in an ad hoc manner anyhow. But I think if we start off and say that, you know, for two days a year we divide and conquer, and that would be a great addition. I think that would further strengthen this, and I'd be happy to move it in that manner. I'm just thinking whether someone actually second that or not. But anyhow, I again, and duplicating what Councillor Cunningham said there, Susan Talke's done an absolute fantastic job over the last couple of years with community engagement, and I think everyone can appreciate that there's a lot changed in the last couple of years, and I think this further strengthens us moving forward.
Councillor Sharkey. We do need a seconder. Councillor Cunningham.
I fully support, and I think well spoken by Councillor Sharkey. So.
Thank you. Is there anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for? Councillor Getson?
Yes, I'd also like to congratulate Councillor Sharkey on that statement. I fully agree with it. And I also like to congratulate the staff in the background that they'd never heard of or whatever. The ratepayers don't realise the amount of work that goes into these things. I know me sort of in the north, people will love to see councils up there, as we did at Linton already, and I think it is a step forward in our time for change. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. Councillor Whitfield?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just picking up on Councillor Sharkey's idea of dividing and conquering the Shire and covering more ground, I think that's a fantastic way to reach more residents. It probably would seem a bit daunting if 7 of us were all in the one spot and a resident coming up to face 7 councillors at once. So having 2 or 3 of us go to many towns at once does seem more appropriate. As a new councillor, I'm looking forward to getting out in the Shire and meeting as many residents as I can. There are opportunities, I think, for these catch-up days or coffee catch-up days to occur in line with the release of the council plan drafts and budget drafts, things like that, so that we can get the responses directly from residents at the appropriate time, and they can have input to us. And I'd also echo Councillor Sharkey in encouraging local community groups to take part in the expressions of interest and inviting us to their meetings. That's probably all. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Anyone else like to speak for? Thank you, Councillor Gamble.
When I first moved to Teesdale, I naively thought that it would be good to have a place for the little kids to swim. And I rang up the council customer service just for an inquiry. And before I knew it, Jenny Blake was arriving on our doorstep. And I can't remember whether she was the mayor back then, but it was quite a surprise and a big difference from after we moved down from Ascot Vale in Melbourne. And I think that's one of the positive benefits that we have in our smaller communities, and the council we have, that we try and be in touch with our constituents as best we can. And I personally, and I think all the other councillors are united in continuing that legacy.
Sure, thank you, Councillor Gamble. I totally agree. I just turned up at the Bannockburns Men's Shed last Tuesday, and to their surprise, I walked in and they offered me a sausage, and we had a great time and a chat for a couple of hours, but it was good to be there and meet all the townsfolk. And they come from all around the district, which is a bonus. So I understand where you're coming from, Councillor Gamble. Okay, anyone else like to speak? All right, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.3, P20/116, construction of a dwelling, 1803 Steglitz Road, Maud. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report relates to a planning permit application for the use and development of a dwelling and associated works at 1803 Steglitz Road, Maud. The report was originally presented to the 15th of December 2020 Ordinary Council meeting and deferred to this meeting tonight. The application has been referred to the Council meeting for determination because there are objections to the application. The report provides a background to the application and a summary of the relevant planning considerations. The councillors have been provided with a full copy of the application and objections for consideration prior to making a decision. As mentioned, the application proposes to use the development of the land for a dwelling and associated works. The dwelling is proposed to be located in the northeast corner of the land at the top of the slope of the Moorabool River Valley. The dwelling has setbacks of 7.5 metres from the northern boundary, 52 metres from the eastern boundary and approximately 105 metres from Bunjil Lookout and 280 metres from the Moorabool River. The proposed dwelling is a large 4-bedroom dwelling over 2 levels that are graduated with the contours of the land. The upper level contains an undercover parking area, large kitchen, 4 bedrooms, laundry and a primary living area that opens to an outdoor terrace. The lower level will be utilised as a children's retreat and entertainment area and also contains a large undercover parking and vehicle storage area. There have been 7 objections to this application up until the December council meeting. A further 6 objections have been received since that meeting, including an objection from the Wadawurrung Traditional Owner Aboriginal Corporation. A copy of all these objections have also been provided to the councillors. The newer objections did not raise any new matters that were not previously considered during the assessment of the application. Importantly, there are no cultural heritage requirements for this application. The development of a single dwelling is exempt from the requirements for a cultural heritage management plan under the Aboriginal Heritage Regulations of 2007. The main concern raised by objectors relates to the visual impact of the development on views from Bunjil Lookout. Other concerns have been raised that the proposal is not consistent with the zoning of the land and regarding environmental impacts, access, noise and loss of privacy. It is noted that 3 objectors have stated that they have no concerns with the proposed location of the dwelling. Issues raised by objectors have been addressed in the report as well. In conclusion, the application satisfies the provisions of the state and local planning policy frameworks, the Rural Activity Zone of Schedule 2, Environmental Significance Overlay Schedule 3 and the decision guidelines of the planning scheme under Clause 65. The proposal will not remove land from productive agricultural use and will have no impact on adjoining agricultural activities. The siting and design of the dwelling, together with permit conditions controlling the external materials of the building and requiring landscaping, will ensure that the development has minimal visual impact on the landscape of the area and does not cause material detriment to any person. The recommendation is that Council resolve to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for a dwelling at 1803 Steglitz Road, Maud, subject to the conditions attached to the report.
Okay, councillors, we have an objector, Mr. Stuart McCallum, who has written us a letter, so we'll just read that out now. Council needs to recognise the significance of the Maud Bunjil Lookout site to the Wadawurrung people. The proposed dwelling will be an intrusion on the landscape view. My preference would be for the application to be rejected, but if that is deemed impossible and Council is comfortable with the insulting intrusion, then vegetation screening should be required close to the construction site, not close to the lookout. Golden Plains has a lot of work to do to improve its relationship with our Indigenous population. We currently pay only lip service, and this is an excellent opportunity to show more enthusiasm towards reconciliation towards the people whose land we have stolen. A long way to go. Okay, do I have a mover to the motion?
Any opportunity for questions, Madam Mayor?
Oh, questions, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Gamble.
I propose to move the alternative motion, if that's appropriate at this time.
Would you like questions first? Any
Okay.
questions to the Director?
All
Thank
right,
you.
questions first.
Rowe?
I'd just like to ask you, Phil, there's no cut and fill here, is there? It's just the house is built within that with that grading of the ground. Is that correct?
There will be some earthworks associated with the building. Exactly how much I'm not sure, but there's definitely some earthworks to try and graduate the impact of the building with the contours of the land.
I was just trying to find a datum point, that's all, but I find it hard to find it, that's all.
Yeah, in the report, there's some elevation views that should show the level of cut and fill at an approximate level. They haven't quantified in cubic metres, for example, but they've shown the lay of the land and where the finished floor surfaces are and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Councillor Rhodes. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much. Madam Mayor, just a question through you, just regarding a couple of things that I'm sort of a little bit confused on. We've had a lot of late submissions have come in on this, and it is quite challenging as a councillor to get through those and get prepared for a meeting. But appreciating people have the opportunity to do that to the last minute. But one of the that 6-page report by the Wadawurrung people they didn't formally put in an objection at the start. They put in a late submission at the last time, loosely worded, and then this time they put in a full page, a 6-page document. I'm a little bit confused by that document in terms of why that document doesn't come to us on each item. I've never seen that document done like that before. As a side issue, I think it's probably a good opportunity for council to maybe get the Wadawurrung people in at some stage to give us a presentation on their interpretation of planning. But I'm completely confused by that document and just wondering why they have done it on this item, and over the past 4 years I've never seen that done. Is there any reason why they have done this on this location, not others?
Yeah, I mean, I really can't comment on why the Wadawurrung have gone to the lengths they have for this application, not others. Having said that, we know that there's cultural heritage significance in and around that area, particularly with the project we're doing around the water supply to the Bunja Lookout Reserve, and we are having to do a cultural heritage management plan for that because there is some significance to the area. However, as I mentioned, with a single dwelling on private land, it's exempt from any cultural heritage management plan. I did also note that as part of their submission, they were proposing cultural heritage management plan be undertaken. We can't put that in as a condition because it's exempt, so you can't legally put on a condition on a permit for something where a permit's not required, or a requirement doesn't exist. The only way that could happen is if the applicant would do it voluntarily, but we can't again enforce that in any way. But to answer your question, yeah, I honestly don't know why they've put in such a detailed submission for this one and not others, other than potentially the significance of that area.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Gamble.
Further to that, I think they made it clear that they consider the entire ridgeline to be a important traditional area for them, for their people in the past and now, and I think maybe this submission reflects their concern about what's happening.
Is that it? Are you questioning? Have you got a question for that?
No, I was
Councillor Gamble?
answering Councillor Sharkey's question.
I think we just need to direct him to the director. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This has been very challenging, so I suppose the question is just to ratify that the application, Director Phil, it satisfies the provisions of the local planning policy, environmental significance overlay and the guidelines, but it also challenges the council's land use strategy proposal. Is there any additional information, do you think, that could have been supplied by the applicant?
We as officers believe that there's been certainly sufficient documentation provided to make a decision. We did ask for an additional whatever you might want to call it, an artist's impression or something, what it might look like from the lookout once it's constructed, and that wasn't forthcoming. But we can't require that, particularly since we've got the detailed information that you've also seen. There's a fair bit of detail and a detailed planning report that accompanied the application, and there's certainly enough material there to make a decision in our view, and that's why we've come up with the recommendation we have.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Director Josipovic, it's a question without notice, unfortunately for you, but a lot of the neighbouring properties don't seem to be aligned with the zoning uses, which indicate agricultural use or horticultural or tourism type uses. So because they are, in a way, precedents, would that sway opinion because there are precedents more so than the zone itself, which directs use?
The use of surrounding land and the nature of the use of the land in the surrounding area does form part of the consideration. I wouldn't say that it is the key consideration, because obviously the key consideration is against the planning scheme. But we do note in the report that the predominant use of the land around there is for lifestyle living. It's not agricultural use, and therefore it fits in with that with that sort of use in the surrounding area. It's not something out of the ordinary in that area.
Any other questions, councillors? Okay, if there's not, do I have a mover to the motion?
Can I move the alternative motion at this point?
You may.
The alternative motion to refuse a permit. The council resolves to issue a notice of decision to refuse to grant a permit for the use and development of land for a dwelling at 1803 Steglitz Road, Maud, on the following grounds.
Thank you. Councillor Gamble, before you go any further, we'll ask for a seconder to an alternative motion. Councillor Whitfield? No, if you'd like to direct it, thank you.
The proposal fails to satisfy various clauses, notably the municipal planning strategy.
I just need an alternative to what's there. You can't actually talk about it, you just need to provide something.
It fails to satisfy various clauses. It fails to satisfy the purpose and decision guidelines of the rural activity zone, and it fails to satisfy the objective and decision guidelines of the environmental significance overlay.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I've spent a lot of time deliberating over this decision and whether this proposal is appropriate. I suppose I'd like to just share some of my rationale for coming up with this, and that is that the decision guidelines in the Rural Activity Zone 35.08-5, particularly for design and siting, they say we need to consider the impact of the siting, the design, the height, the bulk, the colours, materials, etc., on the natural environment, roads, vistas and water features, and measures to be undertaken to minimise any adverse impacts. Also, the impact on the character and appearance of the area of features of architectural, historic or scientific significance, or of natural scenic beauty or importance. These decision guidelines in this case would be subjective or to the eye of the beholder. It's about what one person believes is minimal impact and what one person believes is more than that. I've asked myself, has the applicant designed the proposal to minimise the impact in the best way possible? It's layered into the landscape, but it is still a two-storey, extremely large building. A single storey cut into the landscape may be a lesser impact design. It might not meet their needs, but I'm just suggesting that there are greater ways to minimise the impact. The municipal planning scheme and framework in clause 12.05-2 landscape says the strategy is to ensure natural features are protected and enhanced. I don't think this proposal enhances the natural features of Marooba Valley. I will point out that this valley, although not pristine, does have dwellings and farm buildings that are visible from the lookout in the distance. And I note that for this proposal, the nearby neighbours did not object to the siting of the proposal. I examined the purpose of Schedule 2 for the rural activity zone, and it is to achieve a planned mix of agricultural uses, horticultural production, rural industry and associated agribusiness, tourism and recreation facilities, and that it reflects the current land use. So we have been made aware that there are residential developments in the area, and that it is compatible with the area's dominant landscape features, in particular the enclosed river valleys, escarpments and open plateaus, the distinctive tourist and recreational product that has been developed and its potential for sensitive management. I asked myself, is it compatible with the tourist role of the area? Again, I think this is subjective, and in my opinion, it is not compatible. I would also like to point out that, as Director Josipovic said, there is no cultural heritage overlay on that land, but there is directly adjacent to it. And it's an opportunity for council to demonstrate respect for the Wathaurong people when considering this proposal. Some objectors made mention of subdivision sizes in Schedule 2 of the zone. Subdivision is not in question here. It's not an application for subdivision. It's an application for a dwelling on a lot. And because it's a Section 2 permit required, it stands that a permit may be granted for this proposal if it meets the guidelines, such as having potable water, electricity supply, and meeting the environmental significance overlays. So in a lot of ways, this does meet the requirements. I think this is a rare occasion where councillors have to wear both hats, the planning hat and the councillor's hat. And we, as councillors, we should be safeguarding the strategy that's set in the municipal planning scheme, which in this case is about tourism and protection of the natural vistas, etc. They're my reasons. That's all I've got to say.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? If there's no others, Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This is a this has been a very difficult one to decide on. It's one that, on a personal level, I've been completely honest, have to and fro and been on both sides of the fence throughout the journey. I think this is both a really good thing and a bad thing that this has come at such an early stage of our council term. I don't believe we as a council were probably over it enough at the last council meeting, hence the deferral and seeking further submissions. I personally would like to even further defer this in one matter, and I'm not going to put that forward, but because we have gone on long enough. But I think for me, whilst I appreciate the report presentation by Mr. O'Brien the other day, yesterday was second to none. Really covered every point. I can understand why the recommendation is the way it is. It ticks a lot of the boxes. By not putting this forward, we do jeopardise ourselves if the applicant goes off to VCAT and it comes back and we end up in a worse position. But I think for me, on a personal level, and I think the words have been used quite a lot through submissions, and that's the intrusion, whether it has a minimal, maximum impact on the area. Myself and Councillor O spent over an hour there this afternoon at the Bunjil Lookout, looking at it from several different angles, walked down to the site to get an appreciation of it, and again, both seen why it should and shouldn't go ahead. But I think for me on a personal level, and I appreciate the officers have asked the applicant for the overlay of what the impact would look like. I really needed that document there, and I'm really disappointed the applicant didn't supply that. It is a huge submission that they've put in there, but for me to make my decision on it, I really needed, and I stood there today and tried to visualise what 5 or 10 metres looks like, and I've know that's not my level of expertise, and I appreciate that there was sort of a roughly designed drawing there, and that wasn't a true reflection of the site by any degree. So it's probably that bit of information that was lacking for me to say whether it is a minimal, maximum has that impact, and that's probably the document that I would have liked to have seen there. I appreciate the officers had asked the applicant to put that in, and with discussions, both briefings, and it's been brought up tonight. I think that would have been really pivotal in making a decision. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sharkey. Would
Madam
anyone
Mayor.
else? Thank you, Councillor Cunningham.
I appreciate all the speakers. I suppose my thought is that if I can just refer back to a previous council meeting, we approved a subdivision of a block in Glenavon that had a covenant on it. So, and it was rejected, and we approved that. This one, with the recommendation, as I say, it satisfies the applicable provisions of the policy and the guidelines. So it ticks all the boxes in that way, and I know it's very challenging for council, and I agree with Councillor Sharkey that it's been a very, it's come early. We probably let ourselves down a little bit at the last council meeting when we deferred it. We probably should have asked for a little bit more information, but I think all the information that's been given to us so far by the planning department has been adequate for us to make a decision. And that's about it for me.
Cunningham. Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, I'd just like to say the subject land is in a rural activity zone, Schedule 2. Okay, and Schedule 2 of the rural activity zone applies to the Moorabool Valley and seeks to achieve a planned mix of small agricultural holdings used for horticulture, rural industry, tourism and recreation facilities that are compatible with other things. The area's dominant landscape features, in particular, the enclosed river valleys. This permit application is for a residential development, a residential dwelling, without any of the previous mentioned land uses. This two-storey dwelling will have a significant visual impact on those using the Bunjil Lookout. Also, a large-scale building like this shouldn't detract from the landscape. As councillors, we have a responsibility to protect and enhance our natural environment for the wider community, including those from outside the Shire visiting this site. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Any other councillors like to speak? No? All right, we'll put it to the vote. Councillor Gamble, sorry, would you like to move the alternative and speak to that?
Good.
Yeah, to close.
I'd like to note the strength of the objectives. They're community people generally. Worked overseas as a graphic designer, and her submission details exactly why the building will still be very noticeable, even with the proposed modifications to the to make it less apparent in the landscape. So I appreciate the efforts the proponent and his or her architects, designers have gone to help the Shire Planning Officer approve the development and at least partially mollify the visual impact of such a large structure placed inside and below the escarpment would have. I'd be happy if it was true the development will have, if it was true, the development will have, quote, no virtual impact, but it is a double-storey large structure building with driveways and surrounding developments. So I think I'll leave it there because I don't think it will have a visual impact on the landscape, in my opinion, and that would be to the detriment to the surrounding uses, which are important, very important.
Councillor Gamble. Okay, we'll just put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? The vote has carried. I think on behalf of council that recommendation for an alternative has now been moved with a vote of 3 to 4. 4-3, sorry. Oh, okay, item 7.4, P20-289, a veterinary clinic and associated signs in Brook Street, Smythesdale. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report relates to a planning permit application for the use of the land for a vet centre, construction of building and works, signs under clause, signs and provision of car parking under relevant clauses of the Golden Plains planning scheme. The application has been referred to a council meeting for determination because there are 3 objections to the application. This report provides a background to the application and a summary of the relevant planning considerations. Councillors have been provided with a full copy of the application and objections for consideration prior to making a decision. Objectors cited matters such as traffic and car parking impact, amenity, built form, impact on dining patrons at the adjoining hotel, and also wanting other types of businesses for that particular community. These issues are also addressed in the report. The application satisfies the provisions of the planning scheme, including local planning policies, the provisions of the commercial zone, and the decision guidelines of the planning scheme under clause 65. Proposed use and development will have minimal impact on the surrounding area and is an appropriate location. The proposal is consistent with relevant planning policy, and the issue of planning permit is appropriate subject to conditions. The recommendation is the council resolve to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for use of the land for a veterinary centre under clause 34.01-4, construction of building and works under clauses 34.01-4 and 43.01-1, and also 43.02-2, signs under clause 34.019 and 43.01-1, and provision of car parking under clause 52.06-3, in accordance with the endorsed plans and subject to the conditions that are attached to the report.
Mr. Josipovic. Any questions, councillors? Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just further to comments the last meeting, just regarding that community engagement and the objectors going through the process. This is just no consultation meeting was held to the current hold on public gatherings as a result of COVID-19. In light of things sort of loosening up, do we have any insight in mind when we are going to have engagement back? Because again, I think it's sort of moments like this, it's sort of lacking a little bit. But are we looking at community engagement into the future?
So certainly, as of the December meeting, we are now re-engaging through the digital media such as Teams, Zoom, etc. We haven't yet determined whether face-to-face meetings, when they can, or mediation meetings can occur. The reason these two have fallen in that category because they've been ongoing for some time, and it takes us, about a month or so to get through the council reporting cycle. So, but as of December, we are re-engaging and undertaking those mediation meetings wherever possible.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Councillor Sharkey. Any other questions? If there's no other questions, I'll ask for a mover. Yes?
We had those two public submissions that need
Okay.
to be read out.
All right, thank you. We do have two public submissions. One's from Terry Price-Smith, an objector. I object to the development on the grounds of it being located on an inappropriate site opposite a school, adjacent to a hotel, which may result in traffic, pedestrian hazards, noise and odour from the vet clinic, affecting outdoor dining at the hotel. Modernist design starkly at odds with heritage overlay in the town. Already one vet clinic in Smythesdale. The population demographics does not warrant another one. Demand from local demographic is for a bakery, mower repair, mechanic business, not another vet. From Ryan Thompson on behalf of the applicant. I am the architect working on behalf of the applicant, and I wish to add that we have reviewed the planning report and recommendations included in this meeting agenda, and we feel that the permit conditions are reasonable in this case to ensure the best outcome for the township of Smythesdale. Thank you for putting those forward. Okay, so now I'll ask for a mover. Don't have a mover. Councillor Sharkey.
Happy to move the recommendation as a motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to second that.
Councillor Cunningham. Would you like to speak, Councillor Sharkey?
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It's nice to see a bit of stimulation happening in Smythesdale, and appreciate some of the comments of the objectors there that they'd prefer a lawnmower or different businesses. And I'm sure we've all got our wish list of things, but the private market will determine what goes into these spaces, and whether it's opposite a school. One could argue that a vet is more appropriate than a hotel across from a school. But these are the spaces that are going to be stimulated in many townships across the Shire. I think the architect here has done a really good job of getting the design done there. Going back to my question regarding community consultation, I do feel that there's a couple of within those couple of objectors there's some sort of pretty low-hanging fruit in terms of being able to mediate between the submission and the objectors there that I think that could have been dealt with. But we are in the circumstances we are. So I think this perfectly works in the scheme there. And all the very best of luck to the business going forward. But I think that's great to see a little bit of stimulation happening in Smythesdale.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Cunningham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, nothing further to add there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble?
I was, in reading the application, I was impressed with the intent to make this building sympathetic to the surrounding architecture and heritage, particularly the hotel. Even though it's quite close, I think it was modified with the help of a heritage consultant engaged by the council, and I think it's a fairly good outcome. It's always hard to reconcile modern buildings with older ones, especially such beautiful buildings as the Courthouse Hotel. But I think the use of the plants and the scale of the building being significantly smaller does integrate as well as one could hope for in this circumstance. But I would like to see more detail with the landscape plan that's to be attached to this permit, I believe. Is that correct?
Are there?
From memory, there's a condition on the planning permit to supply a landscape plan, which then forms part of the permit once it's approved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gamble. Anyone like to speak against the motion?
Madam Mayor, thank you. I like to see this, as Councillor Sharkey said, business are going ahead and developing in the north of the Shire, which the Shire is behind to get several more businesses booming in the north. But having said that, I'd like to put in a submission into the amendment to the plan, which is the acoustic fence conditions of 67 Brook Street, Smythes, and it's in P20289. The amended plans are: prior to the commencement of development, amended plans to the satisfaction of the responsible authority must be submitted to and approved by the responsible authority. When approved, the plans will be endorsed and will then form of the permit. The plans must be drawn to scale with dimensions. The plans must be generally in accordance with the plan submitted with the application but modified to show: A, details of acoustic fence to be constructed to a height of 1.8 metres along the southern boundary of the subject site that abuts the boundary of 63 Brook Street, Smythes. Fencing: prior to the use commencing, the developer must construct a 1.8 metre high acoustically treated fence along the southern boundary of the subject site, which abuts the land of 63 Brook Street, Smythes. Such fencing must be constructed to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. The full cost of the acoustic fence must be at the expense of the developer. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
We need a seconder. Do we have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Rowe? Yeah. Okay. Anyone like to speak to the amendment? Councillor Whitfield?
I see the intent of the amendment. I actually think it might work in two ways. One, reduce the acoustic and sounds coming from the vet clinic towards the hotel, and perhaps likewise the hotel might have some loud events there at times that may reverberate the other side of the fence. So I see the benefit in having this here. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Anyone else like to speak for or against? If not, we'll put it to the vote, though.
Speaking about against the amendment somewhat, and sort of just going back to that consultation period, that whilst I'd like to, whilst I agree with this in part, I'd like that to come from that consultation period, or that may have been something that appeases the objectors, and I don't know whether that's going to help or hinder the process, but I fully appreciate its intent, and we support it. But it would be nice to see this come through the consultation period.
All right, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Show of hands. Moved.
So now the
We'll go back to the
motion, which includes the amendment.
Okay, so now we'll go back to the substantive motive, which includes the amendment. So, do we have a move?
It was moved by Councillor Sharkey and seconded by Councillor Cunningham.
Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak?
Yep. So, happy with that amendment. That's a good inclusion there, and I think that'll to help things going forward. And it looks like that. It's got the support of council, so that's good.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham.
Yes, just like to also agree with Councillor Jepson and Sharkey's comments about their good to see some business development up that way, and also hopefully that this amendment that's been made that will hopefully address some of the objectors' concerns. And also, if I can just pick up on Councillor Gamble's comments, I think looking at it, it's a very nice, designed building, and yeah, I think with the right landscaping and trees around it, I think it should blend into the rest of the environment and the streetscape.
Thank you. Okay, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.5, awarding of tender RFT 2020 Inverleigh Sporting Complex Change Room and Social Space Upgrade. Thank you, Councillor. Director Joseph.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council approval is required for the awarding of the tender to a suitably qualified contractor to undertake the construction of the Inverleigh Sporting Complex Change Room and Social Space Upgrade project that aligns with the current AFL Victoria's preferred facility guidelines for a local level facility. The works will include a new female change rooms inclusive of first aid room, massage room and storage spaces, upgrade of the existing sports pavilion change rooms, upgrade of existing toilet amenities, social space extension and upgrade of kitchen, bar and cool room amenities. The tender was released to the market on Saturday the 14th of November of 2020 and was open for 26 days with submissions due on 9th of December 2020. 4 tenders were received and reviewed and compliance checked. After a detailed evaluation process by the appointed panel, Bowden Corporation Proprietary Limited was acknowledged as the preferred supplier based on consensus scores measured by capacity, capability, methodology, price and local content. A detailed confidential tender valuation report has been provided to Council. The recommended tender results in the project has the potential to redirect some of the funding for this project to the Bannockburn Bowls project. The recommendation before you tonight is that Council award contract RFT 2020 for the construction of Inverleigh Sporting Complex Change Rooms and Social Space Upgrade to Bowden Corporation for the contract sum of $1,655,337.40 exclusive of GST and exclusive of the project contingency sum of $165,533.74. 2, delegates to the Chief Executive Officer or his delegate authority to execute the contract on behalf of Council. And 3, to redirect $96,270 from the Federal Local Roads and Community Infrastructure allocation to RFT 16-2020 Bannockburn District Bowls Club upgrade construction of a new bowling green.
Thank you, Director Josipovic. Is there any questions, councillors? No questions? I'll ask anyone to move the motion. Councillor Whitfield. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Rowe. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. This is a fantastic project going ahead for the community of Inverleigh. And I'd like to point out that some of the funding that's been contributed, for example, from the Inverleigh Sporting Complex is quite significant. They are making a substantial contribution to this. And I also recognise other areas such as the Sport and Rec Victoria and the local roads and community infrastructure funding that make this possible. And so well done to those community members of the sporting complex and the Inverleigh Netball and Football clubs that initiate these projects and with Council's help achieve the funding. I think as the population of Inverleigh grows, having a modern facility such as this is going to serve it very well. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Rowe, would you like to speak?
Yeah, look, I'd just like to totally agree with what Councillor Whitfield's just said. Look, this project was identified as a priority for the Inverleigh community through the Council's priority project booklet. the construction of the Inverleigh Sporting Complex Change Room and Social Space upgrade project now aligns with the current AFL VIC's preferred facility guidelines, which is good for a local level facility. Also, this new building no doubt will attract new members to the club and lift the level of competition through numbers, including more female participation. And it's good to see it totally funded from principally grant money and a $72,000 commitment from the committee of the Inverleigh Sporting Complex. So I'd just like to congratulate the Inverleigh community on getting this new sports complex. Thank you.
Councillor Rowe. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Councillor Sharkey.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to put forward an amendment to the current motion. Whilst I fully support all the awarding of the tender to the Inverleigh project, it's been an absolute fantastic project. It will greatly benefit the Inverleigh community there, and I have no issue whatsoever with that. Fully compliment from the CEO, the advocacy that was done on this. I was mayor at the time during the last election. We had this is a perfect example of the importance of our priority booklet. This booklet was changing in live time as we had both now Senator Hanson and Libby Croker. Sorry, half a dozen other Libbies come to mind. And it was fantastic to have that live document changing in time to put before them, and that really helped with getting that over the line. Where I would like to see an amendment, Madam Mayor, is with regards to item 3. I don't believe that we should be complicating this agenda item with the allocation of those funds. I think that is a separate issue, and I think that point there should be as part of the next document. So my amendment would want to exclude that, and then not exclude any councillor from debating the next item, and separating the two items, as I believe they're two completely separate issues and should be debated in their own rights, not complicated and integrated with one another.
Councillor Sharkey. Do we have a seconder to that amendment? If there's no seconder, it lapses. Thank you. So now we'll go back to the original motion. Councillor, anyone like to speak for or against? Sorry, the original motion.
If I can just speak for and echo what's already been said, I think this is a brilliant, first of all, acknowledge the work of the CEO and councillor officers for the work they did in getting these successful grants. Also acknowledge the great work. It's a significant amount of money that the club has, the committee's put in towards this. It's pretty hard to raise funds, especially during the last 12 months of COVID. So it is going to be a brilliant facility, and I think going forward, coming out of COVID, our local sporting clubs and other groups and communities are really going to play a large part on places where people can start to go back to get involved in sport and local community activities, and will play a big part in hopefully our life starting to turn to some normality. So once again, great job for all those involved, and it's just going to be an absolutely great facility, and well done for all the people that are over at Inverleigh. Next time it's Bannockburn Inverleigh footy game. Good.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Rowe, would you like, Whitfield, would you like to sum up?
Madam Mayor, I think everything's been said that needs to be.
Thank you. I'll put it to the vote then. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.6, awarding of tender RFT 16-2020 regarding the Bannockburn and District Bowls Club upgrade and the construction of a new bowling green. Thank you, Mr. Josipovic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is seeking council approval to appoint a suitably qualified contractor for the construction of a new bowling green at the Bannockburn and District Bowls Club. The Bannockburn and District Bowls Club upgrade will involve the construction of a new 34.6 metre by 37.6 metre bowling green, including a capping layer, composite membrane, drainage system, base layers, levelling layers, synthetic surface, ditch wall, strip footings, plinths and battens. The tender was originally advertised on 12th of September 2020 with a closing date of 7th of October 2020. However, no submissions were received. Upon seeking feedback from likely potential tenderers as to why they did not submit, it was found that this was due to a variety of reasons, including a disagreement with some elements of the tender design, scheduling conflicts due to other projects, and lack of in-house resources or available subcontractors, resulting in an inability to undertake some portions of the project work outside of the scope of the bowling green itself. So based on this feedback, the tender documents were updated to allow for more flexibility in terms of potential tenderers. Proprietary design and the mandatory scope items to be priced were also modified. The tender was re-advertised to market on the 17th of October 2020, and 3 supplier responses were received and compliance checks undertaken. After a detailed evaluation process by the appointed panel, Sportsbuild Proprietary Limited was identified as the preferred supplier based on consensus scores measured by capacity, capability, methodology, price and local content. A detailed confidential tender evaluation report has also been provided to Council previously. The recommendation is that Council resolves to award the contract GPSC RFT 16-2020, a Bannockburn and District Bowls Club upgrade, construction of new bowling green to Sportsbuild Proprietary Limited for the contract sum of $603,560 exclusive of GST and exclusive of the contingency sum of $33,079. And 2, delegates to the Chief Executive Officer or his delegate authority to execute the contract on behalf of Council.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just with regards to, we've done a fantastic job on a lot of items lately of being in coming in under budget and working within our contingency funds, as we've seen in the last item there. Being able to redivert savings across the Shire is a fantastic thing. How much has this project gone over budget, and appreciating that the last time there would have been a 10% contingency fund in its original state?
This budget was set prior to my time, but my understanding is it's come back to Council on a number of occasions, because the original budget, as I understand it, was based on the Bowling Association's dimensions for a new green, but it was not clear that that wasn't for competition level and pennant use. It was more for social, for example, in retirement villages or someone's backyard, if someone chose to have a bowling green in the backyard. So once we discovered that, once that was identified, my understanding is a briefing was provided to Council to say that we needed, the budget was not going to be sufficient to deliver the full scope of the projects. And on top of that, with the funding agreement we had with SRV, there were some mandatory components that had to be included in the project, things like seating and covers for players and spectators alike, lighting, 100 lux lighting, which is included in the project as well. So all that, and with, I guess, the passage of time, prices increase through tenderers. So we had 600 and I think in the order of 650,000 for the overall project. We've spent somewhere in the order of 50,000, and so we're about, as the report mentioned, about 95,000 short to deliver the full scope of the project, including the design and meeting all the requirements of the funding agreements we have.
So then that nearly $100,000, $96,000 having gone over that, and also appreciating that the Bowls Club have contributed another $50,000 plus I'm assuming the 10% contingency fund from the first time, plus the additional 100. Like there's no exact figure on in terms of what it has gone over budget.
Yeah.
We're talking
Well, the
hundreds of
budget, I
thousands.
assume, would have been set on some concepts potentially, and there's not a lot of detailed design when you set a budget. So there's always a risk that budgets will be, not enough once you go through the detailed design process and the tender process, which the market determines what the price is worth. And there's plenty of examples at all levels of government where projects blow out by lots of money. All I can say is that as officers, we do our best to provide a budget figure that's realistic, without trying to put too much on top in terms of contingency because of the uncertainty around what the final cost will be. Because if you do that, you jeopardise other projects. If we load up one project with, say, a 50% contingency on base of what we think, we potentially knock out another project down the track. So we try to be as realistic as we can. And, yeah, we don't get it 100% right all the time because you haven't done the work yet in the detailed design, all that sort of stuff. We do better in roads because we tend to do the designs in year one and the tenders and budget setting and so forth in subsequent years. So when you get the design done first, you tend to get your budgets a bit more accurate.
Restless?
And I would just like to follow on from the director's comments, and you will notice that, and up until now, it's been pretty typical that we do cost estimates and we put in for grant applications, and then within our grant applications, we include funding to do design work. And as we've done in this one, the design came afterwards. What we've done, and you will have noticed in the draft budget that we'll be presenting to you shortly, we've started to include some additional funds, not only for roads, but for bridges and for sporting facilities. Some monies, not significant amounts, but some monies within that draft budget so that we can do further design work, so that we can get better at doing the cost estimates, because we'll have detailed design, so that we can be more accurate when we put in these applications for funding. And as the director has made mention, that allows us to be more certain of project costs, so that we can take any other monies and redirect them to works that we know are necessary around the Shire. So rather than load up on the contingencies to be our backup, I'd much prefer to have the detailed design in front of us and be far more accurate and lower that contingency and redirect the monies to our road maintenance or other areas. But we will, as we've said, we will get better at this moving forward, and I'm very comfortable that if we keep that money in the draft budget moving forward, these sort of things are less likely to happen into the future in terms of sporting facility design and construction.
Thank you, Mr. Breathless. Any other councillors? No? All right. If not, I'll ask for a mover. Councillor Getson. And a second, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Getson, would you like to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I think this is a great project coming in Bannockburn as the town is about to grow in years to come. I would like to see that there's more young people that are taking up bowls, which obviously they are. And look, I just think it's a great project. And the club is putting in $140,000, so I think that's showing a great sign that they're appreciative of what the Shire can do for them.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. Councillor Rowe?
Yep, I'd just like to endorse those words of Councillor Getson as well. Look, this project's been identified, to be honest with you, as a need to improve the bowls infrastructure in Bannockburn. And also to, over the years, there's been a lot of volunteers to this club, and many life memberships have been handed out over the life of the club. So it's not only catering for the older residents, but it's also catering for the younger ones as well. And for a club or an organisation, in my book, to put in 140k as a contribution to the building of this is a huge effort. So they truly are putting their money where their mouth is, in my book. And if a lot of the other organisations throughout the Shire did the same, it'd help council immensely. So, thank you.
Councillor Rowe. Anyone like to speak against the motion?
Not against, for.
Councillor Cunningham, for.
For,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Just echo the words that both councillors have spoken. As Councillor Rowe said, the club's been there for a long time, and a lot of the work's been done by volunteers, which is testament to how good it is. It's just like to acknowledge the work behind the scenes of the applicable council department for getting the loans or the funds through Sport and Rec Victoria, the amount that council's putting towards it. But once again, as Councillor Rowe and Jepson have said, the Bannockburn Bowls Club, for their significant contribution of $140,000, which is a phenomenal amount for a bowls club. That's a lot of raffle tickets and Lamingtons. And as Councillor Rowe has said, with the club being able to put that much towards the project, it really means that we can deliver on it. It's going to be a great community facility, which will play its part once again by offering a recreational facility, but also a meeting place for the community. And it's going to be a showcase facility. It really will be. And it'll be something that we should be proud of. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Anyone else like to speak? Thank you, Councillor Sharkey.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to speak against the motion and also foreshadow an alternative motion if it was to lack that this is deferred for till the next council meeting. I'm not against the Bowls Club. I was fully supportive of this when it came through the last time. I just would like to see this deferred and have an in-depth conversation with councillors on this. This has gone over budget. The club, appreciating club, put in $90,000 last time. They're putting in another $50,000 on top of that, and ratepayers are contributing $275,000 towards this. We've now just reallocated nearly $100,000 from the Inverleigh Football Club, and I don't think there's a council here that wouldn't have loved to have seen this come in under budget and reallocated that $100,000 towards a project in the other shire. I think during the election campaign I received a lot of criticism across the shire that we are very favourable of relocating money back to Bannockburn projects. I don't disagree with the Bowls Club. I just think that we as a council should have a tough, honest conversation regarding the allocation of funds to projects. And appreciating Councillor Rowe's comments and supported by Councillor Cunningham in terms of this is a fantastic project for the community. It ticks a lot of boxes, and for Councillor Getsom's comments regarding the growth of the club, and it's going to be an absolute asset to the Bowls Club. But let us not forget that the budget conversations we had last year for the community were tough. It came down to debating people's rates on $10 and $20. There is just moments where I think we as councillors need to have some tough decisions and tough conversations, and I think this one would present a very honest, tough conversation. Two things have changed since this was supported the last time. We are now going through a pandemic. A lot of people in our community are screaming out to us, and it has gone over budget on $150,000 plus. So it is, I'm not against it. I think it's a fantastic project, but I think we as councillors should have a conversation because we've got some tough decisions ahead of us in the next 4 years. And this is one of those ones, because if we didn't have the reallocation of those funds from Inverleigh, if we didn't have the good preparation and planning that the CEO mentioned, we wouldn't have that $100,000 to so simply and easily put into this, and we would be presented with a different option of reallocating $100,000 of ratepayers' money, and the conversation would be completely different. I fully support the Bowls Club. They do a fantastic job. I'll be down there for the next few weeks, the Bowls competition. They do a fantastic job. I just believe we as a council need to defer this to have a tough conversation and then make an informed decision. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Getson.
I hear what Councillor Sharkey's saying, but I think I'm way up north, of course, and I do see what happens to bowls peoples. I believe if you don't supply a good bowling green, you will lose the locals to Geelong. We're on the fringe of Geelong, and they obviously, I guess, would have good bowling greens. So I think to keep, and we've probably got some pretty good players, to keep them in this area, we need to do it, and I think we need to go ahead with this project.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. Anyone else like to speak for or against? Would you like to move your motion? Sorry? Oh, sorry, yep.
Second by Rowe.
Okay,
So
so
we'll
we'll,
put that to a vote.
yep, then if not.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. All right, so we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.7, awarding of tender RFT 18-2020, the Merit of Shelford Road widening stage 2.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Director.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report seeks council approval to appoint a suitably qualified contractor to upgrade Meredith Shelford Road Meredith from Lower Plains Road for a length of approximately 2 kilometres. The tender was released to market on the 31st of October and was open for 32 days. 3 supplier responses were received and compliance checked. After a detailed evaluation process by the appointed panel, Bitumill Civil Proprietary Limited was acknowledged as a preferred supplier based on consensus scores measured by capacity, capability, price and local content. A detailed tender evaluation report has been provided to Council previously. The recommendation tonight is that Council 1 resolves to award the contract GPSC RFT 18-2020 Meredith Shelford Road widening stage 2 to Bitumill Civil Proprietary Limited for the lump sum of $831,683.08 exclusive of GST, and 2 delegates to the Chief Executive Officer or his delegate authority to execute the contract on behalf of Council.
Any questions, councillors? There's no questions. I'll ask for a mover. Anyone like to move the motion? Councillor Cunningham. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Rowe. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak?
Thank you once again. I think it's great that we're putting this money into the road widening project. I think I travel up that way a bit myself, and I know it's a road that's getting seems to be getting busier and busier each time I'm up there. So, yeah, I'm more than happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
I'd just like to say the Meredith Shelford Road's a very important part of the Golden Plains Shire road network, considering, you know, the number of chicken farms at the back of Lethbridge, and also too there's a lot of other agricultural properties that utilise this Meredith Shelford Road to get grain and produce out. So the upgrades to the road will help considerably, I think, with the truck and vehicle movements within this area. And $832,000 spent on this road will be well spent. So, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there any councillor who would like to speak against the motion? Any councillor for? If not, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.8 are the Milton Street Arbour petition. Thank you, Director Lechtig.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, at your meeting of the 8th of December, Council received and noted a petition requesting that Council prevent the building of a proposed arbour in Milton Street, Bannockburn. The Bannockburn Community Planning Group, who are the project owners, have been exploring the idea of creating an arbour along Milton Street for some time, and during that time have considered many of the issues raised within the petition. Since the time of receiving the petition, the Bannockburn Community Planning Group have reviewed their proposal and are now seeking to relocate the project to Bannockburn Bush, where it can be enjoyed by users as a significant community asset for picnicking and as a base for nature walks and just to provide shelter for park users. The recommendation before you is that Council notes the petition regarding the Milton Street Arbour has been received and properly considered, and advises the first names petitioner of the project owner, Bannockburn Community Planning Group Incorporated, intend to relocate the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the petition, councillors? No? Then I'll ask for a mover. Do we have a mover? Councillor Cunningham. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Getsom. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak?
Once again, I think this is going to be a really good project, and I'd just like to also just acknowledge that the council, the feedback from some of the residents about maybe being placed in another part of the Shire in the reserve. So I acknowledge that we've taken on board the feedback. And also where it's going to be located, it's a credit to, once again, that location. And for anyone that hasn't been into that reserve, there's been a lot of work done by the volunteers to clean that up. There's a lot of people use it, and I think this is going to be a really good spot for people to, when they're walking through there, riding the horses or walking the dogs, to stop and have a bit of a rest. So I think it's going to be a good facility.
Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Getson.
Just, I'd like to endorse Councillor Cunningham's remarks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any councillors like to speak against? Any for? If not, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. Just a second. Okay, sorry, I'll just... Yeah, just another item on the agenda. Might be on this one. An updated one, sorry.
No, that's fine. Madam Mayor, I'm the same.
Thank you. We have an item, urgent business, regarding item 1, an objection to the Surf Coast Shire planning application, for 19/0110, use and development for intensive animal production, sheep production and dairy. Thank you, Mr. Josipovic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In December of 2019, Golden Plains Shire provided a submission to Surf Coast Shire Council on the proposed use and development of an intensive animal production, being the sheep production and dairy, located at 1440 Inverleigh, Winchelsea Road in Inverleigh. Council submission to Surf Coast Shire Council at the time was neutral, that is to say, didn't object, and instead raised a number of concerns that residents had raised with councillors. Council officers attended a submissions meeting held by the Surf Coast Shire Council on the 18th of February 2020 to hear from both residents and the permit applicant. In addition, council officers presented to Surf Coast Shire Council's special meeting on the 12th of January of 2021 and raised similar matters to that contained within council submission of December 2019. By way of discussion, I guess the intensity of the proposed use has raised concerns in terms of off-site impacts to the Inverleigh community, existing certified organic farms together with the future expansion of Inverleigh as identified within the Inverleigh Precinct Structure Plan. Given the proximity of the site to the Inverleigh Township and the use and development's potential impact to existing farming properties within our Shire, the proposed use and development presents an unacceptable risk to the community of Golden Plains Shire. Officers are therefore seeking a resolution from Council in determining whether Council will submit an objection to this planning application. In terms of why this has been introduced as an urgent item, Surf Coast Shire Council are proposing to consider this matter at its February meeting, which coincides with our February meeting, and therefore we wouldn't have an opportunity to bring a report to Council unless we introduced it tonight as an urgent item. So the recommendation is that council determine whether it would like to submit an objection to the application for the use and development of intensive animal production to Surf Coast Shire Council on the grounds as listed in the report and on screen there, numbered A through to F.
So I apologise, but first of all, we must put it before the council that this item is in urgent business, and we do need to ask council, do they accept this matter as urgent business? So do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Whitfield and Councillor Cunningham. So, all in favour, councillors? Urgent business, thank you. So now, do I have someone to move that that council submit an objection to the planning application, and a seconder? So do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would move that the council submit an objection to the application 19/0110 for the use and development of intensive animal production to Surf Coast Shire Council on the following grounds. That the proposed use and development presents an unacceptable risk to the surrounding residents in terms of the transmission of Q fever. That the proposed use and development presents an unacceptable risk to the existing organic farms in terms of the applicant, developer, managing dust and other pathogens exiting the site and transmitting to organic certified properties, potentially impacting on existing business. Until such time as the relevant agencies, i.e. the EPA and DHHS, have developed a consistent approach or protocol to manage health risks for proposals such as this, the application should be refused. The proposal in its current form has the potential to drain polluted stormwater runoff from the facility into Barwon River. The cumulative impact on the proposed development, together with existing intensive livestock operations, has not been explored, and therefore may impact on the future expansion of Inverleigh as identified within the Inverleigh Precinct Structure Plan. Given the intensity of the development, the proposed location is considered unacceptable due to the proximity to the Inverleigh Township. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Whitfield. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, concur with every word that Councillor Whitfield said about that. Also, just if I can just add on, like to acknowledge the work by Council Officer Leanne Wilson and her presentation on our behalf at the recent meeting. Once again, I think I echo Council's concerns that it's very close to the Inverleigh Township. You know, the school, the kindergarten, and the house and estates, and it's a growing area. And also, it's located within that farming zone. So yes, I certainly think that we should be submitting to Surf Coast Shire. Thank you.
Cunningham. So we have a vote on that. All in favour? Now we go to the next part. So we have a motion. Do we have a mover for the motion? The original motion? We've had a mover to...
No, you're fine. You've got the Councillor Whitfield and Councillor Cunningham moved both. So we're fine with the motion as put on the screen.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm sorry, councillors, was there any questions before? We can reverse that. Any questions? All right, we'll move it again. Second. Against, sorry. For, against. Thank you. All right, I just wanted to make sure if there was any questions to the report that it be included. Thank you. Okay. Item 10, confidential reports for decision. We have none, so I will close the meeting.